Hey, good morning. It's Patricia Murphy. It's Friday. This is Seattle Now. The Supreme Court looks poised to overturn Roe v. Wade. ORCA cards are getting an upgrade, and cruise season hits a snag. I'll talk about all that with Seattle Times columnist Marcus Green and food writer Geraldine DeRuiter. But first, let's get you caught up. Get out the sheet cake. After public outcry, Seattle Central College says the culinary school program won't be cut next year after all. That goes for woodworking and maritime programs too. The college was contemplating budget cuts in the face of a drop in students. College leaders now say enrollment in the culinary school will continue through the fall. Boeing is moving its headquarters again 20 years after it left Seattle for Chicago. The company announced yesterday that Arlington, Virginia will be its new global HQ. They'll also be setting up an R&D facility there. CEO Dave Calhoun says it made sense to be closer to Boeing's customers and stakeholders. The commercial airplanes business will still be headquartered here. And the April showers, sticking around for a while. National Weather Service says rain is likely today through Sunday night. That's Mother's Day, by the way. Forecast is for high temperatures in the low to mid-50s. Showers should taper off and temperatures will warm up next week. It's Friday again. This week, the Sounders had a historic win. Our spring gloom continued. But hey, maybe you caught a sunbreak on Wednesday. Marcus Green is here. He's the publisher, the South Seattle Emerald, and Seattle Times columnist. Hey, Marcus, good to have you back.
Great to be here, as always.
And Geraldine DeRuiter is here, too. She's the founder of the blog, The Everywhereist. Hey, Geraldine, nice to see you.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, the big news this week was, of course, the draft opinion that was leaked to Politico that shows the Supreme Court will likely overturn Roe v. Wade. The opinion isn't final, but confirms what many have believed, a likelihood with the addition of the new conservative justices to the court. And, you know, if it passes, there are huge ramifications for women across the country, and we can talk about that. But Geraldine, honestly, when I heard this, I just had to go to bed. It came down late and I went to bed, and I am curious about your reaction.
Yeah, I haven't gotten a lot of work done this week. And that's been pretty universal, I think for a lot of people. And I'm still kind of numb about it. The question has been, are we better off with knowing about the leak? And I personally think yes. I'm glad that we were not totally blindsided. And I think we've known for a while that this was inevitable, but yeah, it's still shocking. And I don't know. I'm glad we have more time to process it before the reality of it actually hits.
What are you thinking, Marcus?
Yeah, I mean, I know there's obviously with this subject, there's not a lot of levity here, but you know, the one place where I did find a little bit was that it does seem like this is the national equivalent of your partner who wants to break up with you, like sending a text erroneously to you as opposed to friends, and like, yeah, I want to break up with Marcus and I don't know how to do it. I'm going to talk to him next week. And it's like, oh, no, you actually sent this to me. So, and it's like, oh, no. LOL. So what are you doing next week, though? What are you doing next week?
Oh.
That may or may not have happened to me last Tuesday. But anyhow, but no, I mean, just to back up what Geraldine said, it is very much, I think, a situation where it's good to know that this is coming. It's good to be able to prepare as opposed to being shocked. And I mean, it's a good time for those of us who are certainly pro-choice or just believe in human rights to do our best to rally, right? I mean, this is, I forgot the op-ed columnist I was reading, but they're saying, you know, for the longest time, we should have had this codified into law as opposed to relying, right, on the, you know, Supreme Court. And so I think at this point, it's time for us, those of us who are pro-choice at least, to rally and to, you know, get behind this in terms of, you know, human rights for folks here in our country.
And that effort's coming up in the Senate next week, but they don't have the votes to codify this into law as it stands right now, from what I'm understanding, Marcus.
That's certainly true. But I mean, also, right, I mean, the fight for the pro-life crowd, if you will, as you know, was something that took, you know, 4 decades essentially. And this is what they arrived at. I mean, I'll tell you, for the last 10 years, I've on Rainier Avenue, I've passed by Planned Parenthood, and there are these two gentlemen who are always out there consistently, with their signs saying, right to life, yada, yada, yada. For us, I mean, I think, when mom asked me, when she saw the draft come down, what are you going to do as a man to be a co-conspirator, be an ally? It's, having that same level of consistency, right, in terms of being out there at the forefront, not at the forefront, excuse me, but alongside, in this fight for reproductive rights and reproductive choice.
Yeah, certainly brought out all the politics for sure. Governor Inslee was here at Kerry Park telling people that abortion would remain legal here, surrounded by Pramila Jayapal. Bob Ferguson was there.
I mean, it was never really going to be an issue in Washington state, right? I think that's really the problem that we're seeing. It's that abortion access has already been fundamentally declared illegal in a lot of states. I think if you are in North Dakota, there's one place where you can get an abortion. I think if you're in Mississippi and Arkansas and Alabama, you essentially can't get one. You have to drive. I think the closest places you've got to drive a few thousand miles, which if you are in, if you're a woman who's a teenager, if you are in an abusive situation, if you are impoverished, that's, it's effectively impossible for you to get there. So I think for those of us in Washington state, for those of us who are in a position of privilege, like I'm a white woman, I'm relatively wealthy, even by Seattle standards. I'm never not going to be able to get an abortion, right? It's a 3-hour drive for me to Canada. And short of that, I can hop on a flight. And so really it's the issue of, we talk about it on a local perspective, but this is really a national issue. And so I don't think we can just look at it at Seattle. I think we're fundamentally going to be fine. But in terms of how this is going to impact our country for generations, it's going to be, I think, disastrous.
And that's such an important point, Geraldine, that the people who will suffer are already the people who are already vulnerable in these situations. When I think about what could potentially be the reality, I think about what's happening already, a chilling effect for women who are unsure about the status of their rights in some states, or at this point, confused nationally about what is going on. People who will not reach out and who will be forced to carry a pregnancy, right? And I think about what it was like to raise my son away from my family, where every single moment off the clock was paid time, where I didn't have support. I was pumping in a telephone closet because we didn't have a place to do that at work at that time. There's so much that goes into being a parent and the effect of being fearful about being responsible for somebody's life when you can't take care of your own. You just cannot overstate what happens in those situations.
I mean, we need to call this what it is. It's forced birth, which is going to disproportionately affect people who are marginalized already, people who are lower income, people who are, on the fringes of society already, homeless people, women of color. Like, this is designed to keep people who are poor. Like, there's no question to me that this has nothing to do with the sanctity of life and everything to do with oppressing people. And it is so blatant and so infuriating. And at some point you do kind of, I think, get pushed to numbness. And that's where I get scared, because I'm like, I can't get there. I have to stay angry. And it's, how long can I be this mad?
Yeah, I'm all for Leong's outrage.
Yep. Time to get out of here. Maybe we should all take the train. Heads up, public transit peeps. There are important updates coming to your ORCA cards. That, by the way, is the regional transit pass that'll get you on pretty much everything around here. In 2 weeks, there'll be a system update and a flashy new site called myORCA.com. And if a software update isn't enough to lure you in, the Seattle Times reports the weekend of May 14th and 15th will be fare-free for transit and walk-on ferry passengers due to the upgrade. Heads up, Fare Dodgers. You get a pass that weekend. Marcus, you're a frequent transit user, aren't you?
I am. Yes. Many a date on those wonderful our wonderful public transportation system. So yes, I am. True.
One of the major upgrades to the system is you're going to be able to instantly add money to your account, which of course you cannot do now, apparently. They are definitely trying to encourage people to pay.
Yeah, they're also modernizing things for the first time in seems like forever, which is good for them, and great for everybody else, I suppose. So yeah, I do hope that this maybe incentivizes folks to actually pay for these $1 billion projects that we have that we have approved.
Absolutely. Do you have to tap your ORCA card on the way in and the way out of the train? This is a legitimate question for me because I always tap it on the way in, but I don't always tap it on the way out. Are you supposed to do that?
You are supposed to do that, yes.
Okay.
Really, Trish? Like, really?
Yeah, I was going to say, I live in Ballard, which is not served by light rail. I think we're getting light rail in like 2143, so I'm super excited about that.
Phase 29.
Yeah, I'm super psyched. But I used to use it very frequently, and even I knew that. So,
well, okay, my pass is
I am
unlimited.
wagging your finger.
No, my pass is unlimited, so I never run out of money technically, right?
Yeah,
so I'm not
fair.
Cheating, just ignorant and not asking.
You could save yourself money by tapping out, Trish. You could save yourself money is all I'm saying. Because if you don't tap out, it charges you for the most expensive trip that you could have done, right? So I mean, I'm just saying, we got inflation these days. You get every penny counts. Trish, I'm trying to help you out. Okay?
The East Coast transit systems don't operate like this. This is why this was so confusing to me.
No, and they're a lot like 4%. I was looking this up because I was like, it's something like 40% of people jump the fare, like don't pay the fare.
Yeah.
Which is, to be fair, it's very high. It is a very high number. And I looked it up, and I guess New York was trying to address it because the MTA is like 4% of our passengers are fare jumpers. And I was like, oh no. But the thing is, we have actually made it remarkably difficult to
pay the fare. Yeah.
To not only to pay the fare, but to even realize that you have to pay the fare. Like, it's completely open. And if you were coming from another city, you'd be like, hey, it's free. It looks like it's a free system.
The turnstile stops me to tell me to pay. That's the part that you're right. If I come here from New York, I'm just walking down those stairs waiting for something to stop me. So I put my little transit card on that, right?
Yeah.
And Trish, I got to ask, like, how much of that is just, Seattleites just being Seattleites, right? I mean, I think it's either Germany or Sweden, some Nordic country that that they have. Their transit system is very similar to us. No turnstiles or whatever. And people just voluntarily pay, and I think it's something like a 97% compliance rate. It's like, so I mean, it's doable, right? I mean, like, why do we just not care? Is there no communal bond here?
We are so rule following, though. Like, Marcus, I know you've driven on the freeway, and I know you've been the person driving fastest and been like, oh man, I'm speeding, I've got to slow down because you're going 64. I know you've been that. I've been that person so many times, right? Where you're like, why am I going so fast? Because everybody's going like 4 miles under. Like, we are so rule abiding. Nobody jaywalks, right?
That's such an important point, right? We all wait for the light.
We all do. So I know somebody was like, well, Seattle, we don't need to put in turnstiles. Let's save money. It's going to be fine. So I can sort of see their logic.
Yeah. That was definitely a conversation that was had in the planning meeting.
I'm saying if this were another city, it would be like
double turnstiles.
Yeah. 2% of people pay. It's a miracle 60% of people pay. It's a miracle, honestly.
Just to wrap up the news angle of this story, Sound Transit did, in an effort to try to figure out this fare enforcement situation, which of course disproportionately affects people of color, they refreshed their enforcement policies, more warnings, reduced fines, and appeals processes, and no suspensions. So you'll never be kicked off the light rail for not paying, or suspended forever, I guess, is the...
Yeah, and they no longer call the police. I believe, which as well. And I have to say, the fare ambassadors, they are much nicer than they once were as well. They're sort of it's very much like sort of the Ross from Friends kind of thing. They're a little neurotic, but also very, very helpful to you. So I get kudos to them. Kudos to them.
Oh boy. Well, an unfortunate update. We talked about the start of the cruise season last week on the show, and unfortunately, this highly anticipated season has already been marred by a COVID outbreak on the Carnival Spirit, which arrived in town on Tuesday. King 5 reported more than 100 COVID-infected passengers who said the crew was overwhelmed. Oh, Geraldine, this is just a logical outcome here, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, why are you taking a cruise during a pandemic?
I know.
I'm sorry. I had to take an international flight, and I went to Europe, and I got COVID, which I felt inevitable, and I kind of saw this coming. But in part, it was because, mask restrictions are being lifted, and I wore a mask the entire time I wore a mask through the airport. But at this point, if you are going to travel, you are going to get COVID. If you have a cruise ship, which is a floating petri dish under the best of conditions, I don't think that you should step into that human quagmire of bacteria right now. I think that's just a bad idea. I do feel bad for all of the people involved. I think that sucks.
It's terrible,
sorry.
Right? Because we crave normalcy so much, right? And cruise people love cruises. This is a thing, right? This is like a whole club that they want to be in here. But this virus is still circulating. This is math, not magic. This is math.
Yeah, no, maybe a giant floating apartment building where you're all communally eating at the buffet is a bad idea. I don't know. Maybe just wait a couple more years.
Yeah. I have to say that, reading this article, I was like, is this real, or is this like a Robin Cook, the back page of a Robin Cook novel or something? But no, this is an actual thing. So
yeah,
here we go.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say, it did feel like the start. I mean, that is the start of a zombie novel, right? Where, the outbreak happens on the cruise ship. And then it's the scrappy first mate and the new divorcee who went to find love on the cruise, and a couple other very stereotypical characters. And they're the only ones who survive, and they're trying to get to the last lifeboat. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you can wave hi to a lot of these people.
So.
Yeah.
You can wave hello to most of these people because they're in hotels around the city right now, recovering, hopefully. And the CDC might step in because there are enough cases apparently to do an investigation. So, wishing you health, Carnival Cruise COVID passengers. All right, we are leaving it there. Thanks to our guest, Geraldine DeRuiter, food writer and founder of the blog The Everywhereist, and Marcus Green, publisher of the South Seattle Emerald and columnist for the Seattle Times. Thanks, you two.
Thank you so much.
Have a great weekend. Appreciate you listening. Caroline Chamberlain Gomez produced today's show. Matt Jorgensen does our theme music. I'm Patricia Murphy. Talk to you Monday. Have a great weekend.